and welcome to my Ex Appeal Your Everything Divorce podcast. My name is Joie Camaro, and I'm here with
Mandy Tucker.
and we are the friends that you didn't know that you needed. Know that you're really excited.
Always excited.
We have a guest today.
You do.
Yes. Are you excited about it?
I am. I'm always excited when, I'm always excited. I'm still excited. We're talking about money. Talking about money today. And it's super important when you're going through a divorce to get comfortable with talking about money, whether you have a job or you were a stay-at-home professional. Nikki Tucker is coming on today, and she is a certified divorce financial specialist.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. We're going to learn a lot. She is the founder of the FIIRM approach, so we're going to learn what that is. And it is teaching women to make confident decisions about their life pre and post divorce. So I'm interested to learn what I should have known, what you will now know, and then what we can do when you go in from here.
Yeah. I say we just hopped right with where at.
I think we should be right.
All right, let's do it.
Joie and Mandy, everything divorce related. We can put the S back in your ex appeal. Joie and Mandy, friends you didn't know you needed on my ex appeal and everything divorce podcast.
All right, Nikki, thank you so much for joining us. We're actually really, really excited to have you here. And I don't know if you know this, but we're usually not in the same room.
No.
So we're in the same room today. We're usually separate. So the fact that we're in the same room is throwing us off, but we're really excited that you're here with us. So Mandy mentioned your bio a little bit about your company and what you do, but I would love if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, first, let me say thank you. Thank you for having me. I am confident this will be a fun conversation. So thanks again for having me. And just a little bit about myself. Well, I've been in the finance space for over 20 years at this point. So doing work on the commercial side, as well as personal financial literacy, working with women going through divorce. I'm a certified divorce financial analyst, but ultimately I want to make sure that women understand what they need to do to improve their financial life, particularly after divorce, and then also getting through the divorce process and coming out okay. Let's go with okay. And I also think that women should be unapologetic about protecting their financial security, because we know that statistically, women often struggle when it comes to their money for various reasons, gender pay gap, wealth gap, all of those things. So I'm all about supporting women in their finances.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because, we deal with mostly women with being divorce coaches, and that seems to be a common theme is the finances, and they want to know, will I be okay? So it's nice that you just said that. No one's thinking, oh, I'm going to be the best that I could ever be, but they just want to be like, can someone tell me that I'm going to be okay? So the fact that they can be okay financially, I'm sure is amazing for a female to hear. So tell me a little bit about your company, FIIRM.
Yeah, so the FIIRM approach is a resource company. And what I mean by that is we work to connect women to modern tools, modern resources, and humans that they probably don't know exist that can help them. So the work that you do is a great example, because very often when someone is going through the divorce process or even planning to divorce, the first person and often the only person they think about is an attorney. And so what we are charged with is making sure that you understand that there are other professionals that can be a part of your team to help you get through that process. So it could be a mediator. It could be a divorce coach. It may be a discernment therapist versus just a regular therapist. It could also be a regular therapist, a financial coach, a CDFA. Like there's a lot of people who are specializing in supporting women or individuals going through a divorce. So that's part of the work we do. The FIIRM is actually an acronym, but I don't use the dots because I think it looks ugly. So it's just FIIRM with 2 I's, but FIIRM actually represents that we want women to be flexible. We want them to be informed, intentional, resourceful, and masterful. And masterful does not mean that they're perfect, that they have it all nailed down. It just means that they're committed to figuring it out. So that's what the FIIRM is.
So what brought you to that? How did that even, you were just, yeah, these are all the things that I want to put together.
Yeah, it's a really good question because I wanted to be in business and in finance since I was a little kid. And I say all the time, I was the nerd that was playing with the 10 key calculator for fun because I like the sound of the rolling tape, adding tape, whatever it's called. And then I discovered that I actually didn't want to be an accountant. So I went into finance. However, going through my career, and I college educated, business, undergrad, master's, all of that. In my circle of friends, there were a lot of professional and successful women. And as we got older, I started to hear different stories of either direct friends of mine or their friends or relatives who were successful, but in unhappy marriages and wanting to leave their marriage, but at the same time, afraid to file, afraid to do anything because of all of these myths associated with divorce. So in the beginning, when I started the firm, it was just about helping women level set and improve the way they manage their money. And later on, it transitioned to specifically helping women going through this major transition that can turn their financial world upside down.
Yeah, because that is one thing that we definitely do here is I'm truly scared because number one, I might not know how much money my spouse makes. I don't know where the money is, and I don't know if I'll be okay because I've been a stay-at-home professional for however long, and now I've got to go back into the working world to actually support myself. So I absolutely love that. I love that. I love your passion behind it, and I think that it truly seems like your calling because you're very light up when you talk about it. But what are some of the common financial mistakes that women make when going through the divorce process?
Yeah, there are a few. I think it's important to look at it from the pre-stage. Once they know that they are getting a divorce or they think they might be, or someone has whispered in their ear that they're filing or they're planning to file themselves. On the pre-stage, it's not making sure that they have enough money or access to money. And so what I mean by that is in most cases, it costs money to get a divorce, and it usually ends up being way more expensive than people think or people plan. Okay. And sometimes I hear about, unfortunately, situations where everything is joint. And for one reason or another, they don't have access to the cash they thought they did. The money that was in the bank yesterday isn't in the bank anymore. The credit cards have been turned off. Their name has been removed. And so it limits their access to cash or to credit. And so I think it's really important to try to avoid that mistake, even though sometimes it's no fault of their own, and make sure that they have access to money that no one else can touch, i.e. their future, soon to be ex-spouse. So having a bank account in your name, planning and putting reserves and money aside so that when you file, or if you've been pre-warned that, there's a divorce pending, then you have some money set aside. Have a credit card in your name only so no one can cut off access to that. Like, those are some of the things that I think women need to be comfortable with and equipped and understand that is super important when you're on the beginning stage. And then I think the middle part is when you're going through settlement negotiations, for example, understanding the tax implications of some of the decisions. And it's major. And that's why, again, sometimes it's helpful to have a financial advisor or an analyst CDFA like myself involved, but to understand that not all the dollars are created equally. And just because the numbers look like, oh, this seems fair, it looks fair on paper, once you get through tax implications, it may not be. So every situation is unique, but those are two of the biggest things.
So you would probably recommend someone when they go through that mediation process or talking to their lawyers, definitely get in touch with a financial specialist, because a lawyer is not a financial specialist. A mediator is not a financial specialist. And you definitely don't want to give the wrong advice.
Because some people probably think, and we've seen it, when they go through a divorce, they put all of their eggs in one basket, meaning they just rely on that lawyer to tell them what to do for everything. And like you said, if you have a 401k,
and or your spouse has a 401k and you're like, oh, get how in that 401k, and then you try to cash it out and you don't realize that you get paid taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think sometimes it overwhelms women when they think about bringing in another team member or bringing in a financial analyst, because they're thinking, well, I don't have enough money. I'm not wealthy. I'm not rich. There's nothing that they can do for me. And it really doesn't matter how much money you have. If you have assets, if you have something that you own, is likely worth protecting or ensuring that you're making prudent financial decisions. If you have a lot of debt, again, or your spouse does and you don't, right? You just want to be aware of these aspects. And so to your point, the attorney absolutely serves a purpose. The mediator, divorce coaches, they absolutely serve a purpose. But you want to make sure that you're getting information and guidance, advice, whatever you want to call it, from a person who specializes in the topic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think a lot we try to sometimes with clients, will say, oh, you should talk to a financial advisor, and they may make an appointment with the financial advisor, but then at the end they're like, oh no, I don't need them right now because I don't have the money. But it seems like this vicious cycle of, okay, well, you might lose money because you're not using this person or a CDFA or, like you said, a specialist individually. So that actually brings us to our next question is, so how do you ensure that you have the proper, because like you said, it's overwhelming. So how are you ensuring that you're getting this proper support? How do you even know?
The simple things that we can do is make sure that we're doing the work. And so when I say we, I mean women. We're listening to podcasts like this. We are having conversations. We're reading articles. We're reading blogs. Most people are not experienced in the topic of divorce, thankfully, right? Hopefully it never happens to you. And if it does, maybe it only happens to you one time. And so I think it's important to not be ashamed or be uncomfortable with the fact that you just don't know what you're getting yourself into. And so in order for you to know, you're going to have to put in a little work on the front end and do some research and figure out who are the right divorce providers, professionals in your specific state, because we know divorce is based on the state that you live in, right? But getting access to information is very simple in today's modern times. So you can listen to podcasts for free. You can watch YouTube videos for free. You can do a lot of things up front just to get the information, and then reach out to people and ask questions. I say all the time, I'll talk to someone for 15 minutes. You don't have to pay me to have a conversation. And if we're a good fit to work together, great. If we're not, I probably know someone who can help you, right? So it's just not being afraid to ask for help and to proactively seek out the help.
I love that, because that also, when you're going through a divorce, I don't know if you have, Nikki, when you're going through a divorce, that hamster wheel, I always talk about this on the podcast, that hamster wheel at night doesn't stop. And that is when your day is quiet, the kids are tucked in, and you have a second to think. But if you're on that hamster wheel and you don't have someone to ask those questions to that come to you as whispers in the middle of the night, then it's just going to remain on that hamster wheel, just blow up in your head, and just create this bad story for yourself, right, if you will, because that's all you can do. If you don't have the right people to go ask the questions to, no question is stupid. No question. No. But if you don't have the right people to ask it to, then you're setting yourself up for bad play. Really.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I'm actually not divorced. I'm technically a widow. But what makes that interesting is I was married for a very long time. And so death obviously is very final. A divorce is like death. There's a grieving process. There's lots of things that you're not prepared for. And going from a double income household to a single income household, being the primary or sole provider, being the person who's responsible for making sure your kids are okay while also trying to make sure you're okay. Like, those experiences are shared. So from that lens, I absolutely understand it.
Yeah. I'm sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that you made that correlation between just mourning a loss. Either way, It's very difficult. It's very overwhelming. And a lot of people are just kind of thrown into this. We'll make these decisions, and you're making decisions from emotion sometimes. And so that's why it's probably good to have a team, because you got to hash out those emotions so you can make, decisions that actually make sense, which sometimes is a very difficult thing to do. So,
yeah. Well, that leads me to my next question is, how can you feel confident in these pre and during and after financial decisions? Like, what are some steps? What are some action items that we could start today, no matter where we are in the process, to actually do this?
Yeah, I think it's actually much simpler than people think. And I don't want to discount the fact that, like you just said, it's a very emotional process. There are lots of ups and downs, ebbs and flows. So you're unfortunately not going to be able to eliminate that. But if you're trying to get more clarity and feel more confident in your decisions, information is your friend. Okay. Very often we fear what we don't know. So even if you think about a scary movie, most of the time we're jumping because not only do they have the crazy sound effects that are intended to scare you, but something is jumping out of a closet or from under the bed and it's scaring the crap out of you. Okay. So naturally you're fearful of that because you didn't know the thing was coming. If you are prepared for what's coming, again, working with the right professionals to understand what to expect, understanding what you need to do and what not to do, but also understanding your financial position. The main categories of divorce are money and children. And if you don't have any kids, then it just comes down to the dollars. Like, what's the property you have? How are we dividing things? And where can we agree and not ultimately? So the big piece of divorce is really about finances. So understanding your financial position on the most basic level is one of the simplest things that you can do. What do I mean by that? Well, 9 times out of 10, unless you're immediately remarrying once you get a divorce, you're going to be living off of one income. You might have support to go along with that. You might not. But that reduction in income is going to require a lifestyle change. So before I get a divorce, I want to know, well, am I cash flow positive or cash flow negative? What does that mean? Do I have enough money coming in to cover the expenses even before anything changes? If you're cash flow negative before you get a divorce, there's a high likelihood that you may be cash flow negative post-divorce because your income is naturally declining. Okay. So how do you figure that out? It's straight math. Income minus expenses. If you have a budget going, then you likely know the answer to that. If you don't have a budget, now's the time, right? And then working through what your expenses may look like post-divorce. So biggest expense most of us have is housing. Will you stay in the same house? Do you have to refinance? Do you need to pay someone out? Do you need to move? Are you getting an apartment? How will your housing costs change? How will your fixed expenses change? What are your discretionary income? When you have information, and you don't have to be exact because it's hard, but you can project what it might look like and come up with different scenarios. That's the information you need to confidently say, I'll be okay. Or I don't think I'm gonna be okay. And I need to figure out something else, or it changes how you negotiate. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I had some thoughts running through my head, but I forgot.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So we're almost 50. So that
I think what I was thinking was when you were speaking to, am I going to be okay or am I not going to be okay? I think it also taps into your mental health, because you can stay on that treadmill of I'm not going to be okay. I'm not going to be okay. And guess what? You're not going to be okay. Or you can jump on to I don't know about your Instagram. My Instagram is full of side hustles. Like, yes. All people, you can do this for this amount of money on a side hustle. You can do this on the weekends. You can do this. Some of them are scams. Some of them are not. But if I was truly financially in a position where I needed to, I'd be doing side hustles all day long.
And there's so many options. Yeah. There's so many options, even if it's just that you need a little pocket change. I remember it's probably up until about 2 or 3 years ago, but I still get requests for it. I used to do surveys all the time, research surveys. And sometimes people think those are scams, but they're not. They're legitimate. And So for 75 minutes of my time or 90 minutes of my time, I'm okay with making 125 or 150 bucks, right? So you sign up for different research companies and you give your opinion. That's an easy way to just get a little bit of pocket change, and it covers a grocery bill or something like that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, once you sit down and do your budget, I think it's overwhelming to sit down to say, I'm not gonna make it. And what if you sit down and you put your budget together and you're just $125 short? And then you're like, okay, that's not so bad. I think
Right.
it seems like a big monster. And then you sit down, you're like, oh, wait, I can afford this, but I'm $120 short. And all I have to do is work at Target for a few hours a week or something like that to get $100.
Yeah. So the closet. I remember cleaning out my closet.
Oh yeah, gosh.
And I was like, I'm never going to wear this. I'm never going to wear this. And around, so I'll sell it. Right. I make some money. No.
I mean, why not? Why not? I agree with you. Why not?
Sell everything in the house. Come home to it. That's not so if just to go back real quick, because I love all of this, just to go back real quick. So if somebody is like, I know that I don't have anything in my name, right? Or I don't even know what I have. I'm going to go ahead and open up a bank account. Do you suggest to people like, oh, hey, take about 6 months before you walk out the door? Like, are you giving people timelines to say, like, don't do it right now? Like, don't just walk out, plan your life first. Because I think when people make that decision to leave, sometimes they're like, nope, I'm out of here. But they don't take the time to.
Right.
Yeah, time is your friend. It is your friend prior to filing. It is your enemy after you file. And so what I mean by that is, if we're being honest with ourselves, if we're considering divorce, we don't wake up one day and say, I'm filing for divorce. This is something that has either crossed your mind multiple times, probably a year or two ago or more, or it's actual conversations that you've had where you and your spouse are still trying to work through it. So I agree with you. The more time you have, the better. I think 6 months is great. A year is fantastic. It's fantastic, but it depends on, again, your individual financial circumstance. But when you start to think about it, it's okay if you set aside a little bit of a reserve for the possibility. Planning for it doesn't mean it'll make it happen. Similar to when people get insurance, right? Wear a seatbelt. You wear a seatbelt to protect yourself. You get car insurance in case you have an accident. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to have an accident or something is going to happen. But if you know that you're unhappy consistently in your marriage and you're considering leaving, or your spouse has been kind of dropping hints that they're thinking about it, I say start planning for it mentally, emotionally, and financially. And that's when time is your friend. It's not your friend because the longer it takes, the more it's going to cost you once you file. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's true. And so if so getting into credit cards though, what is your advice? So you say to somebody, okay, get yourself a credit card, but how are you how some people go off the rails with a credit card and now they're worse off. So you're just saying, open up like a simple credit card, use it for gas only.
yes.
Maybe.
Yes, this is your emergency credit card. This is not the one you need to carry in your wallet every day and swipe every time you decide to make a purchase. This is just for security purposes, financial security purposes.
Yeah. Put it in a drawer.
Yes.
And put it. I made it.
Mm-hmm.
And
and this may sound drastic to some, but if you know you don't have that level of discipline around credit cards, let's say you've had a past history and you're like, I'm never getting another credit card. I talk to those guys all the time. It's like, well, the credit card isn't the problem. It's actually your habits, but that's a different story. But get the card, okay? Cut it up, put it in the drawer. The line remains open, but you don't have access to use it because you've cut it up into pieces. And then if you actually need it, just call the company, tell them you need them to send you a new card.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point, right? So it's a great. So it's not so easy to swipe it if it's in 3 different pieces. You're at the store trying to put it through the machine.
when I was getting my divorce, I did open a line of credit and I did the bare minimum, but I found one that gave me, I want to say maybe $300 cash back. It can put $1,500 within the first 3 months. And I became a retainer for my lawyer. So I was like, here's the credit card, here's the retainer. I got $300 back. Now I've got a year of no interest and I'm going to pay this sucker off.
Yeah. It's a great strategy.
Yep. Yeah. Because then that builds your credit, but then you're not.
But you still talk to, and if you're not, if your mind doesn't think that way, that's why that is why you have the professional.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Yep. And I would tell you that if you do that strategy, I'll say, don't be surprised. You're going to get taxed on that gift that you got, but it's a fair trade-off. It's worth it.
Oh yeah, totally worth it. Because you're right. I mean, all this is such great advice. What is the one thing? What is one, other than opening up a bank account and maybe getting yourself a credit card, what is another one piece of advice that you find yourself giving your clients that we can give our listeners to take away with us today?
There's lots. The most consistent piece of advice is stop venting to your attorney, because that is the most, more than likely, unless you got like a flat fee situation or some kind of family discount, more than likely, that is the most expensive person on your team. And they'll listen to you, but it is going to cost you significantly more than if you just got a therapist or a divorce coach or a counselor. And for most people who are employed with a decent amount of benefits, you can go through your employee network and maybe get someone for relatively free or next to nothing discounted price. But venting to your therapist will cost you venting to your attorney, will cost you so much money. That's probably the most consistent thing. And I can guarantee you, your soon-to-be ex will piss you off in the process, at least once, probably more than once, and you are going to want to tell someone about it and try to figure out a way to like make them pay for pissing you off.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It happens.
Yeah. We've actually had attorneys tell us,
yeah,
they can vent to us all that they want. The meter is running.
Yes.
So it's filed. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah.
It'll be in the bill.
And I agree. I totally agree with you on the cost. But if you're really looking for some advice and for listening, if we give you an action item out of that venting session, the lawyer's not going to give you an action item.
No, they just listen. They just listen and then move on. They ask you.
Or they say, do you want me to call opposing counsel and tell them to tell him to stop? And you're like, yes, do that. Well, that's also going to cost you money, but they're willing to do it. But that's going to cost you some money.
That's great advice.
Yeah, I love that advice.
I do too.
That's a good one. It's cheaper to get some mimosas and go hang out with your friends and hang to them. That bottle of Prosecco is only $13.
$47 for 10 minutes.
Literally.
Maybe some nachos too.
Right.
Same. So Nikki, tell us, how is everyone going to find you? Because I'm sure people want to talk to you.
Yeah, well,
What's
you
the
can
best way?
find me. The best way is through the website. So that's thefirmapproach.com, 2 I's again in firm, but thefirmapproach.com. So there's a blog, there's the contact list or a contact site, and anyone can fill out the form and reach out if they need to. I'm also on Instagram. I'm not great at Instagram, but I try. So you can always send me a DM if you need like an immediate connection, but usually the website, because there's a lot of resources there.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. I love that. So thank you Nikki. We need to have you come back and just talk, because we could feel like all the topics that we discussed, we could go like so much further into all of them. Yeah. Because I'm sure, I mean, I've been through a divorce, or any female going through a tough time. Like you lose your job and you don't know what to do. But I think as females, we're such problem solvers, but we want to get to the we want the problem solved right away, and we don't take the time sometimes to figure out all the steps properly. We're like, just fix it, hurry up and fix it. So I think this is great for females to take a step back to a budget. How many people do budgets? Not many.
Not enough. And it's not hard. It's just not fun for most, but it's not hard.
Not eye-opening. I think people don't want to stick to it.
Yeah. They're like,
They figure out
when they know that they spend how much they spend on shoes, they're like,
Oh, see, for me, it's the toffee. The
girl, this is, you spent a lot of money on toffee.
girl, I buy the tub that's like $36. There's no toffee left right now, and it hasn't been touched because I don't want to spend the $36 on a new tub of toffee.
I was Nikki. I have to apologize because I was kidding. Who spent money on toffee?
I do. It's my one treat. Don't you have that one treat, Nikki, that you just have to at the end of the day?
And mine is coffee with the C. I spent a lot of money on good lattes. Yes.
It's toffee. Yeah. Who knew?
It's toffee with the T. I got it. I would love to come back and have another conversation, whatever way that you think I can best serve your audience. Happy to do so. So just let me know.
We'll work on that because
it's
valuable information.
It's so beneficial, and like we said, our base is females, and I think we just think differently, and we budget differently, and we go through life differently. So it's a different set of challenges and unique challenges that we face on a daily basis. So any help that we can give, and what the service you provide is far more important than most other things, especially going through the course, because money just rules the world. I mean, people always like, well, money doesn't matter. Well, yes, it does. I'm sorry, it does. It really does. So we'll have you back. So Nikki, thank you so much. And we'll get back in touch with you. And for anybody else who's listening, if they're still at the end of this podcast, Mandy, then that is amazing. Thank you very much for being here again. And we will see you next time on My Ex Appeal. But make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, My Ex Appeal, and let us know that you're there in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. So we'll see you next time.
Joie and Mandy, everything divorce related. We can put the S back in your ex appeal. Joie and Mandy, the friends you didn't know you needed on My Ex Appeal. And everything divorce